everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of the Knitty Heather podcast. My name is Heather, and I'm coming to you from Kent, Washington, where I live with my husband Tom and our Cavalier King Charles Spaniel Pepper. This is my channel where I talk all about my knitting and everything I am creating. I also love to feature amazing makers, designers, yarn dyers, and makers of any yarny accessories, anybody that adds to the beauty of our fiber community. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for finding me. I hope you enjoy yourself. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. All of the yarn and patterns and accessories I talk about will be listed and linked in the description box below. Today is Saturday, May 28th, 2022, and I have a lot to tell you about today, so let's get started. Today I am wearing my adventuring cowl. This was a project that I made in December of 2020. This is an advent pattern by Amba O'Brien, and I used 24 mini skeins from the 2020 Knit Style Yarns Advent Calendar. It is a very pretty eyelet pattern that you knit on the bias flat, and then you seam it together with a 3-needle bind off. It is very fun, and of course the colors make it really pop with personality. This is a very comfortable, wearable cowl if you want just a little something around your neck to keep you warm or to add a pop of color. It was such a pleasure to knit. It did not use very much yarn, so I know a lot of people are ordering advent calendars right now for this coming holiday season, and this is an excellent option. It would also be perfectly fine with 10-gram mini skeins as well. As I recall, I knit this totally according to pattern. I just added one color every day, so the colors are in order as I opened them back in December of 2020. And again, this is just one of my very favorite Advent projects that I have ever done. If you are looking for a really fun project to use your Advent calendars or just a collection of scraps, this would be an awesome choice. Check out the Adventuring Cowl by Amba O'Brien. She also has the Adventuring Wrap, which is essentially the same stitch pattern, but there's more stitches, and it is a wrap that you continue to just knit flat and you don't seam together as a cowl. It does use up a little bit more yarn, I believe. But check out the Adventuring Cowl by Amba O'Brien. Today I am also wearing my London socks by Mina Phillip, the Knitting Expat. This was the first pattern she released as part of her Around the World in 8 Socks collection in 2021. It features a very fun geometric knit and purl pattern. The yarn I used was from Lolo Didit's Downton Abbey Club in the colorway Jilted and Left at the Altar. They were knit cuff down with 20 rounds of a 2x2 rib, a German short row heel, and a rounded toe. Next, I would like to show you some happy mail I got a while ago now, but I'd love to share it with you. These are from my friend Kelly of Ritz Fiber. She is part of the Love and Stitches membership and a very talented yarn dyer. Over a month ago now, she and I and a couple other friends were on Zoom together, and she was showing off all her beautiful yarn, and a couple of us just had to make a few purchases right then and there. So I got 2 beautiful skeins of fingering weight yarn from her. The first is called Rose Bush. Here is her label, Ritz Fiber. This is called Rose Bush on her 75-25 base. And I just love these pretty pastel-y colors. I think these are going to knit up so beautifully. Love the buttercreamy yellow, the green, and this pretty pink. I think this is going to make a beautiful pair of socks, and I cannot wait to knit it up. I also purchased a skein of her zebra base. This is called Green Zebra, and it's on an 80-20 merino nylon base. And it should micro stripe with these cool little zebra spots within the yarn. And I just kind of loved this like shamrocky green base. This should also make a really, really fun pair of socks. Check out ritzfiber.com. She has beautiful skeins of yarn, and I do believe she has a couple really great advent options if you are still shopping for a holiday advent. to my finished objects. I actually don't have any completely finished objects to show you this time, but I have a lot of half and almost finished objects to tell you about. The first is my May Desert Vista Dyework socks. Here is my half finished sock. I am doing this just a straight vanilla sock. I started it with my wedge toe, worked up the foot, did a fish lips kiss heel, continued up for about another 50 rounds up the leg, and then I think I did about 16 rounds of a 2x2 rib for the cuff. This colorway is called Sleeping Zombody from her Princesses collection. And I really love these pretty pink colors with the zombie stripes, absolutely gorgeous. And then here is my second sock. I really have about 8 more rounds up the leg and then I need to do the cuff. But I did complete the heel. So this one is almost done. This is a plain vanilla sock, knit toe up with the fish lips kiss heel, knit up in Sleeping Zombody by Desert Vista Dyeworks. Next is the pair of socks I've been working on from the Cozy Knitter. Here is the finished sock. This is also a toe up with the fish lips kiss heel, plain vanilla. And I think I did 10 rounds of a 2x2 rib for the cuff of this sock. This colorway is called Will Never Be Royals. And it came with this cute blue mini that went perfectly with the blue stripe. And here is the progress on my second one. I have a little bit more left to do up the leg on this sock, but I'm almost there. I will continue. I think I've got about 18 more rounds on this one and then 10 rounds of the 2x2 rib with the mini again. And I'm really enjoying this colorway. This was from her June Yarn of the Month Club back in 2021. And it's not necessarily a colorway I would have picked for myself, but I love it. I love the different shades of silvery gray. This is on her 80/20 Bliss base and it is just so lovely to work with. I really enjoy this yarn and I'm excited to have another pair off the needles. This is a plain vanilla sock, knit toe up with the fish lips kiss heel, knit up in the colorway Will Never Be Royals by the Cozy Knitter. My last basically finished object is my Union Square socks. This is a pattern by Mina Phillip, the Knitting Expat, and I am doing it in the Yarnable colorway from June 2020 called Wildflowers. Here's a little bit of a better shot of the pretty eyelet pattern that I'm doing across the front of the whole sock. I knit this cuff down with 16 rounds of a 2x2 rib. I knit about 48 rounds down the leg, a fish lips kiss heel, and then 50 rounds down the foot before I did a rounded toe. I really love how this yarn is kind of striping and the colors are so pretty in this colorway as well. Really, really love these bright springy colors. And then here is my progress on sock number 2. I am almost all the way down the foot. I believe I have about 12 more rounds left to do down the foot before I close up the toe. But I think this pattern and this yarn is going together very, very nicely. This is a very simple eyelet pattern, very easily memorizable. It's only a 4-round repeat. And it just adds a really pretty touch. I also love the back that's just plain stockinette. I think is looking really pretty with this yarn as well. I highly recommend this pattern for any kind of yarn. I think it's looking really good with this pretty kind of micro striping yarn, but it also works really well with a self-striping yarn too. This is the Union Square socks by Mina Phillip, knit up in the colorway Wildflowers by Hypnotic Yarn from her June 2021 Yarnable box. Now on to my works in progress. The first work in progress I'd like to tell you about is the sleeping socks I have on the needles right now. I actually almost have these done as well, but I'll count this as a whip for the purposes of this episode. I am using the Learn to Knit Socks pattern by Stacey Perry of Very Pink Knits. It is a cuff down with a heel flap and gusset design. And this is actually the second sock. My first sock is completely done. The yarn I am using is called the Rainbow Connection by Crystal Skies, hand dyed on her Bengal worsted base. I did 12 rounds of 2x2 rib for the cuff, 30 rounds down the leg. I followed the directions for the heel, flap, and gusset and did another 35 rounds of plain stockinette down the foot before I closed up the wedge toe that she puts in the pattern. And so I have about 15 more rounds left on this foot before I close up the toe. I am using my Luca 6-inch size 5 double point needles out of the Beechwood collection, I think. They're super great to work with. I really am enjoying these. And I'm using my Fruit Loops Progress Keeper from Suker Miniatures. I thought that was nice and colorful to match this nice colorful rainbow yarn. I also have this housed in my sheep bag from April 9 Designs, and I have a sheep progress keeper from Bump on a Hill on Etsy that I am using as a zipper pull. I am really looking forward to having another pair of cozy sleeping socks off the needles to wear at night. This is the Learn to Knit Socks pattern by Stacey Perry of Very Pink Knits, knit up in the Rainbow Connection by Crystal Skies, hand dyed on her Bengal worsted base. Next up, I'd like to tell you about the hat that I am working on. I have made a lot of progress on this since I last talked to you. The yarn I am using is called Snowflake by Lang Yarns. It is a very interesting mix of cotton, alpaca, polyamide, and wool. It's a chunky weight yarn. And this is what the hat is looking like. I am doing the Snowflake Toque, which was designed especially by Bliss Yarns in Tennessee for this particular type of yarn. It's having a cool color work effect, but it's just the yarn that is doing that. I am only knitting. It is just a straight, simple stockinette pattern, but the yarn is giving it so much cool effect. This little progress keeper that is a sheep cupcake is from Simply Serving on Etsy. And I have this project in my retro Disney movie poster bag from Bags by Awesome Granny. I always love putting hats in this bag. I am using my Knitter's Pride Dreams 16-inch circulars. I started off with size 10. Now I am working with size 10.5. And I am so thrilled with how this is knitting up. It's exactly how I was hoping it would look. I actually won this as a kit from Bliss Yarns, and I'm so thrilled to be finally knitting it up. It also came with this cool faux pom-pom, so I'm definitely going to be putting that on top of the hat after I close up the crown. And I think that's going to be really, really fun. Again, this yarn is totally creating this effect by itself. I'm not doing anything special. Check out the Snowflake Toque by Bliss Yarns, knit up in Snowflake by Lang Yarns. Next up, I'd like to tell you about a very exciting and special new cast on. I am doing a brioche cowl. A lot of us in the Love and Stitches membership are working on brioche this quarter, and right now we're trying to stretch ourselves by doing a little bit of a more challenging piece with increases and decreases. And so I have finally cast on a cowl that I've been looking at ever since Tracy from the Grocery Girls showed it probably 3 or 4 years ago on their podcast. I just really fell in love with it and thought it was so beautiful. It is the Happiness Cowl by Vera Valimaki. It is a 3-color cowl and it uses DK weight yarn. So let me first show you the yarn I am using. I am using Lolo Did It Simple DK in the colorway Amazed and Wildwood Flower. And then my third color, which I have not started using yet but will very soon, is by Rainy Day Fibers, which is now Trilogy Yarns. And this is the colorway Teal We Meet Again. So here are the 3 colors together. Really loving how that looks. And here is my work so far. I am almost done with the first pattern repeat, this cute rainbow cake progress keepers from Simply Serving on Etsy. And like I said, I'm just about done with the first pattern repeat. So this is with the first 2 colors. Next, I will use the wildwood flower color with the teal. And then I will use the 2 solids, the Amazed and Teal, for the 3rd repeat. Here it is on the inside. Brioche is reversible, which is one of the coolest things about it. So it's gonna look really awesome when it's kind of all bundled up around my neck. Here's kind of an idea of the size of it. It should probably wrap twice around my neck after blocking. But it's just kind of got these little diamond shapes with increases and decreases. I just really love both of these colors together, and I think the teal is really going to add a lot to it as well. I am trying to use little stitch markers between each pattern repeat just so that I can help keep myself on track. She had you start with an I-cord cast on, which took a long time, but it really looks nice. Your first stitches you provisionally cast on, so I've got that on some waste yarn. And then she has you hold the last few stitches that I'm gonna eventually graft together. So kind of a little bit of some new techniques for me as far as the edge of a cowl, but I think it's gonna be really nice. And I'm so excited to have this really going and looking nice on the needles. I'm very thrilled to be working on this. My goal is to have this done by the end of June because that is when our sort of brioche challenge and the 11 Stitches membership is done. So I'd love to be able to finish this by the end of June with all my friends and all the different brioche projects they are working on. And I could not be happier with how it's looking so far. If you are looking for a little bit of a next level, but not too intimidating, really the increases and decreases are very simple. They don't involve a whole ton of stitches. If you're looking for a brioche project like that, I really recommend the Happiness Cowl by Vera Valimaki. And another bonus is that it is DK yarn, so it does knit up quickly. And with the thicker yarn, it's a little bit easier to see what your stitches are doing. Check out the Happiness Cowl by Vera Valimaki. Next, I would love to give you a quick update of where I'm at in one of my really long-term projects, my shawlography by Stephen West. I am really just trying to work through this pattern. I'm not putting any time pressure on myself, but I am making slow but steady progress and enjoying every stitch. It's really been so much fun. This was his mystery knit along from last October, and I believe this stitch marker shows where I was last time, this little green cupcake from Bluebird Miniatures on Etsy. So since last time we talked about this, I finished the triangle section and did this little row of baubles, which was actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I really was dreading these baubles just because they take a long time. You know, it's a lot of knitting for just what ends up being one stitch, right? So, but it was not that hard of a bauble that he had you do. So I was actually pretty thrilled with those. So now I am starting on the wings. If you're not familiar with this pattern, there's kind of this center semicircle shape, and then there's some short row wings, I want to call them, that I'm doing with my green and blue yarn, kind of striping them. So they're short rows, so they're going to really start decreasing and kind of make little triangles almost to close it up. And then I will need to pick up stitches to do the same thing on the other side. These two wedge sections at the end are the last bits of clue 2. So I do still have 2 more clues to finish this shawl, but it's gonna be good. I'm really enjoying it. I think I can handle it. We will get it done. Might take me all summer or beyond, but I will get it done. So I'm enjoying this part. Is actually really pretty relaxing. It's just knits and purls, short row, creating a little bit of length on each side. Check out Shawlography by Stephen West. Last but certainly not least, I would like to show you where I'm at on my Cozy Memories blanket. The pattern I'm following is called The Coziest Memory by ChiaoGoo, and I've done quite a bit of work on this since I showed it to you last time. I believe I was on this self-striping square from Desert Vista Dye Works last time, so I've finished this row. This row I was kind of alternating between my Yarnable, Desert Vista Dye Works, and Cozy Knitter yarns from 2020. All kinds of new colors added to this. I am doing 24 squares across each row in this blanket, and I am casting on 40 stitches to begin with, which is a little bit less than the pattern calls for, but I like the size of square that I'm getting. So I am just beginning my 5th row with these last 2 squares. I am doing this row with my 2020 Knit Style Advent Calendar that I used for this cowl. So those are the first 2 colors I added to this row. Here is the color I will be adding next, which is a sparkle with some pretty greens and golds. So I'm really trying to get at least 2 squares on this blanket done every week, which isn't a ton of progress, but with everything else I'm working on, it's manageable. So I'm really loving how this is looking so far. I'll try to give you a shot of the whole thing as best I can so far. I'm happy with the width of it. And of course it's going to need to be rows and rows and rows longer for it to be a nice size blanket. But this is a very long-term labor of love kind of project that I'm happy to work on for another couple years if necessary. This is The Coziest Memory by ChiaoGoo, and it is an excellent scrappy project that really tells a great story with all the different yarns. And you can look at it and remember everything that you've made with these yarns. It's a great scrappy project. Well, I think that's about all I have for you this time. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to give this video a like and consider subscribing. And as always, I love your feedback. So please feel free to leave a comment below or message me on Instagram. I am at Knitty Heather on Instagram, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. But until next time, be well, be kind, and happy knitting. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.